Welcome back to Nightly Nonsense, where we make some sense out of the nonsense all around. I'm super excited because I just heard some really good news. So this will be an excitable Nightly Nonsense, which doesn't mean that it's going to be any less challenging and you won't have to chew on stuff. It just means I will be excited to make you do those things. We're in Isaiah chapter 29, challenging you on what happens when God seals something up, when we don't have access to him, when he says enough is enough. What happens when he turns us over to our lowercase g gods? Now listen, I did not do last week very justice, lots of rambling on about it. I'm going to point you in a good direction. Go to Reflections, right, and listen to a talk about lowercase gods, idols, those kind of things, right? Summer has some great teaching on that. And so we want to make sure that you pay attention to that. So let me talk about verse 13, right? Verse 13 says this: the Lord said, because this people draw near with their mouth, honor me with their lips, right? While their hearts are far from me. Right? So I want to look at that verse tonight. We got a lot of people who are doing this very thing, right? The Lord said this is why he sealed it up. He sealed it up because we got people who are doing what? Oh, wait, they're talking about God, right? They're honoring God. They're going to church. They're talking about how important God is. They're talking about who he is, the character of God, the things that God has done. Right? But their hearts are far away. Like, imagine that, right? We don't get to just, right? We don't get to just talk about God. We don't get to just talk about how great he is. We don't get to just give him credit for the things that he's doing. We don't get to just say he's wonderful and he's amazing and he's full of love. We actually have to know it. Right? Again, this isn't about actions. This is about a heart. Right? This is about why are you doing what you're doing? Who are you? Right? God looks down and he actually cares about who you are. So you can have the biggest bank account in the world. You can have the biggest church in the world. You can have all these things, and God can actually literally look at you and go, yep, your heart is far from me. Why? God says that David was a man after his own heart, right? The heart, from the heart is what things really come from. It doesn't matter what goes in your mouth. It matters what comes out of you. God is constantly on this concept. So God says here, I didn't say it. This says, and the Lord said, I'm sealing this up, right? You're not going to have access to me for a little bit because your hearts are far from me. So let me make this super short, super clear tonight. I love it when I say that because then I go on and it's not super short and everybody looks at me and goes, yeah. And sometimes I nail it. It's great, right? Let me give you something super easy to chew on, hard in application. Here it is, right? Do you have a heart for what God has a heart for? Why are you doing what you're doing? For whom are you doing what you're doing? God says, I'm going to seal things up from you if you don't have my heart. So that begs the question, what is God's heart? What does God have a heart for? So listen, it gets intertwined in everything we do down here at Trash Ministries. What does God have a heart for? That's the question. But really what you need to chew on is, do you have a heart after God's own heart? If you stood before God Almighty today, would he look at you and say, well done, my faithful servant, right? You've been faithful in little, I'm going to give you more. Would he look at you and say, you are a man after my own heart? Would he say that to you? Could he say that to you? Hey, we're going to leave it right there. We'll talk about what that is tomorrow night, and we'll see you next time. Nightly Nonsense.